The first thing he noticed was the blood on her blouse. It wasn't much, just a thin, uneven stain near the collar, but under the dim streetlight outside the downtown Seattle restaurant, it looked like something far worse. Marcus froze with his car keys in his hand, his mind splitting between panic and responsibility. His 5-year-old son was waiting at home with a neighbor. He had already stayed too late at the company's annual fundraising gala. And now his boss, Victoria, the polished, intimidating CEO everyone feared, was swaying against the glass doors with a half-empty wine glass and eyes that could barely stay open. Have you ever stood at a crossroads where walking away would be easier, safer even, but staying could change everything? What would you do if the person who controlled your paycheck was suddenly the one who needed saving? Marcus didn't think about power or office politics. He thought about his son, Noah, and the promise he had made at his wife's funeral 2 years earlier to be the kind of man his child could look up to. And the kind of man he had once promised Rachel he would always be. Victoria stumbled forward, nearly collapsing onto the pavement. Marcus lunged and caught her before she hit the concrete. Her breath reeked of wine. Up close, he saw the blood was from a small cut on her chest where a shard of broken glass must have grazed her when she dropped her first drink inside. It wasn't life-threatening, but she was in no condition to drive. Across the street, a black SUV idled. A man in a suit leaned against it, watching too closely. The city at night had a way of turning minor mistakes into lifelong regrets. Marcus tightened his grip around her shoulders and scanned the sidewalk. The man across the street straightened, as if debating whether to approach. In that instant, Marcus felt something primal, protective, urgent. Victoria wasn't just his boss, she was a human being in trouble. He guided her carefully to his car, ignoring the curious glances from a few lingering guests. As he buckled her into the passenger seat, she murmured something incoherent, her mascara slightly smudged, the sharp confidence she wore in the office nowhere to be found. She looked smaller somehow, younger. Fragile. Driving through the wet streets of Seattle, Marcus felt the weight of exhaustion pressing into his bones. He worked 2 jobs since Rachel's passing: marketing analyst by day, grocery stocker on weekends, just to keep the mortgage paid and Noah in the preschool Rachel had loved. Every dollar mattered. Every mistake could cost him everything. He didn't take Victoria home right away. He stopped at a 24-hour urgent care clinic instead. He helped her inside, signed paperwork when she could barely hold a pen, and waited in the harsh fluorescent light as a nurse cleaned and bandaged the cut. He sat there in his wrinkled suit, staring at his cracked phone screen, checking the time again and again, picturing Noah asleep on the couch with cartoons playing softly. Victoria sobered slowly, confusion turning to embarrassment. By the time Marcus drove her to her upscale apartment overlooking Puget Sound, she was quiet. She didn't speak much, but when he helped her to her door, her fingers gripped his sleeve for a brief second, as if grounding herself. He made sure she was safely inside before walking back to his car alone. That night, he didn't tell anyone. Not the co-workers who would gossip. Not even his neighbor. He slipped into his house after midnight, kissed Noah's forehead, and lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if he had just risked his job by seeing his boss at her weakest. The next morning at the office felt like stepping into a courtroom. The air buzzed with whispers about the gala. Victoria arrived late, impeccably dressed as always, her blouse crisp and unblemished, her hair pinned into its usual precise twist. The bandage was hidden beneath the fabric. She walked past Marcus's desk without a glance. For a moment, he felt foolish. Maybe she would pretend nothing had happened. Maybe acknowledging it would be too humiliating for her. Maybe he had misjudged the entire thing. Around noon, an email notification appeared on his screen. A calendar invite from Victoria. Private meeting 1:00 p.m. His stomach tightened. Inside her office, sunlight streamed across the polished wood desk. The city skyline shimmered behind her like something out of a magazine. Victoria stood when he entered, not as his superior, but as someone carrying something heavy. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking. Her eyes were clear now, sober and searching. She didn't pretend to forget. She thanked him. Not with corporate politeness or forced professionalism, but with something raw and almost trembling. She admitted that the gala had been overwhelming, that the pressure of leading a struggling company after her father's sudden death had been crushing her more than anyone knew. She confessed she hadn't eaten all day and had drunk far too much. She told him she remembered the man outside, the investor who had been pushing her into uncomfortable conversations for weeks, and how terrified she felt when she realized she couldn't even stand on her own. And then she said something Marcus didn't expect. She said she saw the way he looked at his phone in the clinic waiting room, the wallpaper photo of a small boy with bright eyes and missing front teeth. She asked about him. Marcus spoke about Noah in a quiet voice. About Rachel's battle with leukemia. About hospital bills. About learning to braid hair for preschool picture day, even though his fingers fumbled at first. He hadn't meant to open up, but once he started, it poured out: the loneliness, the fear of failing his son, the constant exhaustion of trying to be both mother and father. Victoria listened. The following weeks unfolded differently. Marcus didn't receive a promotion overnight. There was no dramatic corporate makeover. But small changes began to ripple outward. Victoria restructured team hours to allow more flexibility for parents. She implemented a mentorship program and quietly approved Marcus's request to work from home twice a week. She pushed for a new investor, one she trusted, and distanced herself from the man in the black SUV. One Friday afternoon, she called Marcus into her office again. This time, she handed him a folder. Inside was an offer: senior marketing manager. A raise substantial enough to ease the tight knot that had lived in his chest for years. She told him she wasn't rewarding him for one night. She was recognizing the integrity he had shown long before that: his consistent work ethic, his quiet leadership, his refusal to exploit a vulnerable moment. She said companies needed people like him. Leaders needed people like him. Marcus drove home that evening with tears blurring the road. When he lifted Noah into his arms and spun him around in their small living room, he felt something shift inside him: not just relief, but dignity restored. Life didn't become perfect. Bills still arrived. Grief still surfaced on quiet nights. But there was a new steadiness in his steps. Months later, at another company event, Victoria stood confidently at the podium, sober and strong. When her speech ended, her eyes found Marcus in the crowd. There was no secret between them, no debt owed. Just mutual respect born from one fragile night. Sometimes the smallest choices define who we are when no one is watching. Marcus could have walked away. He could have said it wasn't his problem. He could have protected himself first. But instead, he chose compassion. And in doing so, he changed more than just one evening. He changed the direction of two lives. Before this story ends, tell me in the comments what you would have done in Marcus's place. If this story truly touched your heart and reminded you of the power of kindness and second chances, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can carry this message forward.